Morning. Ooh.
Late at night, early in the morning, here we are.
Yes, it's 24/7 city council at this point. So
Either way, yeah.
yeah. How are you?
Okay.
Well, I had word from Councilmember Sufferton that he won't be joining us.
Okay.
So I think we're all here. Oh, hey, Luke, how are you?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Luke.
Good morning. I think we're all here and we can get to work. So yeah, let's just do that. So the Thursday, May 26th meeting of the Referrals Committee is called to order. Councilmember Revelle.
Here.
Councilmember Sufferton. Mayor Biss is here, so with 2 members present, we have a quorum and prepared to do our work. We begin with public comment. Is there any member of the public seeking to give comment? There is not, so we'll move to the next item on our agenda. Approval of the minutes of the May 12th meeting. Do we have a motion on this matter?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second. Councilmember Revelle moves to approve the minutes of the May 12th meeting. Mayor Biss seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
I vote aye. And with a vote of 2 in favor and 0 against, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Now comes the actual job of the morning. Just as a heads up, the one we definitely can't have a referral meeting without a tricky question. So the one tricky question before us this morning is that there were some referrals made some time ago, like a week almost, I think, by Councilmember Newsma, that I think the mechanism by which Clerk Mendoza puts those on the agenda didn't function somehow. So on the spreadsheet didn't function. So they were only added to the spreadsheet relatively recently, but we've had them in hand for some time. And so with your consent, Councilmember, I would propose that we
Right.
take those up as well.
Yeah, no, I was looking at that. They were submitted about a week ago. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So it actually requires the clerk to manually move
She
things.
just has to push a button. I mean, the idea is, and again, the idea is not to create a burden for her. It's just to make it so that a hostile person
Right,
can't.
right, exactly. Yeah. Right.
But for whatever reason, that just something didn't work out with that this week. So I don't know if there's a tech issue, Luke, that you're aware of.
I don't believe it's a tech issue.
Right. We'll chase it down after and figure it out.
I think the main thing is that maybe 2 or 3 days before we're scheduled to have a referrals committee meeting, the clerk can check to make sure there's nothing waiting, because we'd have, and especially if there's something for the rules that we might be forwarding to the rules committee, which only meets every couple of months,
Right.
We would want to make sure that got moving forward. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I think we have then, if I got my arithmetic correct, I think we have 7 items to address, lines 14 through 20 of the new referrals form tab of the spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's about right.
And let's just get started then with line 14, which is Councilmember Reed's referral. It's on some level a companion of one that he made that we took up at our previous meeting. Here he is proposing to transfer $5 million from the general fund to the reparations fund. So I don't know if you have a scoring you wanted to share, Councilmember.
Okay, I gave it a 2 for time sensitivity and a 2 for scope, a 1 for connection to existing policy, a 3 for community interest, and a 1 for goals and priorities.
Okay, I swapped one of your 2s with a 1, but either way, the same total and very similar scores. So I'll just drop your scoring in the spreadsheet. I think this one clearly needs to go to the Finance and Budget Committee.
Right, definitely, yeah.
This is not a policy question at all. It's just a major budgetary decision.
Right, yeah.
And I I don't know if you have thoughts. I mean, I do feel like finance and budget is not meeting that often, and we're giving them a lot of homework. So I want to be a little bit sensitive to that, but I don't know if you have thoughts.
Oh, are they meeting they're meeting once a month, are they, or?
I think they are,
Mhm.
but they're also, as has been pointed out, they're also overdue for a new chair, right? So one thing on the rules committee agenda
Mhm.
is going to be appoint a new chair to finance and budget. So,
Yeah,
well, I don't know why I said that. That may not be relevant to any of this. I'm sorry.
right, okay, yeah. Well, then I move that we forward this item to the Budget and Finance Committee, and so do you recall how many other items we've sent to them recently? I mean, should we say to put on the agenda in by the end of the fourth quarter? Or is that too far off?
I mean, I was going to say third, but I think there's value in being, and again, they can always move it earlier. I don't know, Allison, do you have at your fingertips an idea of just how much we've given them?
I don't have it categorized that way, no. But I can take a quick look. Let me see if I can sort of figure it out off the fly.
If I can offer just a quick comment, I think the only concern that we might have from staff perspective is just timing with the budget season. So fourth quarter would be probably
Oh, too
perhaps
late, yeah.
too late if we're trying to think about fiscal 23.
Yeah,
Oh, of course, right. That's right. The fund.
that's a good point, yeah. So then I revise my motion and I suggest that we ask them to put it on their agenda by the end of the third quarter, which is basically starting next week.
Nope, starts in July.
January, March, April, May, June.
Yeah.
Oh, no, July, August, September. It's not till July, but
So we give them 4 months.
yeah, it's soon.
So I will second that motion. So Councilmember Rebel moves that we forward the referral on line 14 to the Finance and Budget Committee with the recommendation they take it up before the end of the third quarter of 2022. Mayor to seconds, there are discussions, seeing none. Councilmember Rebel.
Aye.
I vote aye, and with 2 voting in favor, none voting against, the motion passes. This brings us now to line 15, which is legal rights for legal tender ordinance, which, as I understand it, essentially obligates local businesses to accept cash. It doesn't allow businesses to function
Right, yeah,
cashless.
yeah.
Do you want to share your scoring for this?
I'd looked at this rating, I'd given this a rating before the last council meeting, and then we had, of course, our public comment about the issue, and
Right.
so I'm giving it a greater time sensitivity than I had initially. So I'd say a 1 for time sensitivity, a 2 for scope, a 2 for I don't know, a 2 or a 3 for existing policy, a 2 for community interest, and a 1 for goals and priorities. I'm all over the place on this one.
Okay, well, so I gave it similar scores. I was a little less generous for the first and last, but I think you make a good point about the public comment. So we can go with your score. I think it's perfectly reasonable. I presume he asked it to go to Human Services, which I think makes sense. You could imagine it going to Economic Development, I suppose, but I think Human Services is probably the right place, right?
Well, I guess the question is how, from a consumer perspective, it should go to Human Services, but from an impact on our local businesses, it should go to Economic Development. Won't our business community want to weigh in on this issue?
Yeah, for sure. I assume it's going to be important to hear from them, and
Which of course they could do if it's at Human Services as well.
Yeah, I don't have a strong, I mean, we could do a dual thing, or we could just, you know, we could just send it to one or the other with the expectation that
Mhm.
whoever gets it will have two jobs, one of which is slightly out of their
Mhm.
kind of mainstream responsibility, but they're still up for it.
Right. I mean, I guess I'm thinking we'll send it to Human Services, but suggest that when the committee gets ready to discuss this, that they reach out, for example, to the chamber and, you know, encourage input from the business community in that discussion. Does that sound kind of like a,
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine.
Okay, then I move that we forward this to the Human Services Committee and suggest that they put it on their agenda in the third quarter. They do have a very full agenda, very full lineup, actually.
All right, so I second that motion. So Councilmember Ravel moves that this item on line 15 be forwarded to the Human Services Committee with the additional request that they solicit input from the business community and the recommendation that it appear on the agenda by the end of the third quarter of 2022. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
I vote aye, and with 2 voting in favor, none voting against, the motion passes. So the next item is Councilmember Hedekadis's referral regarding ranked choice voting. Do you want to share your ranking of that?
I was a tough grader on it, but I'm happy to be, you know, to give it, you know, a higher grade, lower grade, whatever. I gave it a 2, a 2, a 3, 3, and a 3. But
Oh, you were a tough grader, man. So I didn't. I gave it, and I guess what I want to say, I guess I don't really care what numbers we give it. Here's my take on this one. I gave it a 1 for time sensitivity, which I want to fight for that. And the reason is, it's a referendum that would, in order to go on the ballot, the council's got to pass the resolution by some date in August. And we're going to surely send this to the Rules Committee. There's really only one meeting of the Rules Committee in time to make that timeline work. And that meeting's on June 6th.
right, okay.
So we have the choice before us is kick this to a different year or ask the Rules Committee to put on their agenda on June 6th. My own view is that I prefer that second option because I do know a lot of people have done a lot of pretty real work on this behind the scenes, and I see no reason not to at least have a vote to see if folks want to move forward.
Yeah, right. I've been focusing on, November election, that's a long way off, but actually, you're right, it needs to get moving sooner, a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, I mean, the state law just tells us when we have to get something passed in order for it to be printed on the ballots, and that's, I forget the exact date, but it's in August, and so, you know, it wouldn't work to wait.
Right, no, I agree. No, and it's an issue that's going to require considerable community education, and the groups that I hope will step forward to do that education need to,
yeah, they need to know
what's happening.
Yeah. So I will relent on all of our differences on this one, except for the timeline. So I will adopt your scoring with
and I'm happy to amend my time sensitivity.
All right. So is there a motion then?
So I move that we forward this item to the Rules Committee and ask that it be on their June 6th agenda.
I second. So Councilmember Ravel moves that line 16 be forwarded to the Rules Committee with a request that it be on the agenda for the next meeting. Mayor Biz seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
I vote aye. With 2 voting in favor, none voting against, the motion passes. This brings us to line 17, which is Fair Housing Ordinance Amendments from Councilmember Kelly. Did you want to share your
Well, I wasn't really clear exactly what this is aiming at, but I gave it a 2 for time sensitivity, a 3 for scope, a 1 for connection to existing policy, a 3 for community interest, and a 1 for goals and priorities.
So we gave it very different scores with the exact same total.
Okay.
So that's,
I mean, maybe, I mean, it's hard to, I found it hard to rate it because I wasn't really clear on what the intent is. Can you explain that?
yeah, Allison, can you, I know that she's reached out about this. Allison, can you speak to this?
Actually, she and I have not had a conversation about this one in particular.
Ah, interesting. So she sent information over, but there's been no discussion.
Correct.
Yeah, so I mean, she created this, relatively big document that I think is linked here. Oh, well, hold on. So that link doesn't seem to function. But in any case, so I mean, I'm just sort of reading from this, but as I understand it, because we're a home rule community,
Mhm.
our fair housing ordinance supersedes Cook County's, even though she tells us, and I didn't know this before, that Cook County's is stronger than ours.
Oh, okay.
And so what she's trying to do is to bring the protections, I think specifically for LGBTQ people in the fair housing ordinance, in line with what's already on the books in Cook County.
Okay. Okay.
And I didn't realize that the URL in this spreadsheet is broken. So if you would indulge me for 1 second to go through my email. She has sent me this URL before, and I assumed it was the same URL.
Mayor, I believe I can share my screen with the document in question, I believe, if you'd like me to do that.
That'd be great, Luke, if you don't mind. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. Are you able to see that?
Yeah. Right.
Let me start at the top here. So looks like her changes are in red. So
Okay. Okay. And so that's already in the Cook County ordinance, but we should add it to ours then.
That's what she's proposing, yes.
Right, yeah, okay.
it looks like covered criminal history, domestic violence, evidence of rehabilitation, gender identity, individualized assessment,
Mhm.
record, offense, sexual harassment, sexual orientation,
Mhm.
and a couple other changes, looks like.
Okay.
And I'm happy to forward this document now as well.
Okay, or the UR, whichever, yeah, that'd be great. So what committee would we send this to?
I mean, my first thought was P&D, but I think that's wrong, actually. I think it's Human Services.
Okay,
Does that
yeah,
make sense to you?
it's more, I had first thought we were talking housing policy, which
Right.
in a way we are, but it's, yeah, I think Human Services does make sense.
And, I think we should, I mean, she's done the work here,
Right, exactly, I know, right.
I'm not saying that the issue is straightforward from here on out. I don't know enough to know that, but like she's done she's got this draft that, is,
Mhm.
seems pretty ready to go.
Right, yeah. Well, and it'd be hard to argue against not wanting to do what Cook County has done, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Human Services is crowded enough that we don't want to say anything earlier than the third quarter, that's that's fine, but I think, you know, I think relatively soon is kind of how we ought to treat something like this, that, you know, it's been so meticulously prepared.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, there's only one more human services meeting before the third quarter anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, no, it's not going to go on in June. I think that's
Right, yeah. So then I move that oh, do we want to do numbers?
I think we did.
Okay.
We did. And I just sort of took yours because we got the same total.
Sure. So then I move that we forward this to Human Services and ask that it be on the agenda in the third quarter.
I second. Councilmember Revelle moves that line 17 is forwarded to the Human Services Committee with the advice that it be on the agenda before the end of the third quarter. Mayor Bis seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
I vote aye. With 2 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion passes and the item is duly referred. So this brings us to line 18. So there's Councilmember Nusma has 2 sort of
related.
Yeah, parallel proposals, one regarding zoning and one regarding licensing for immediate term homeless shelters. You know, the basic issue here is that the pandemic has really essentially, I would say, illustrated a need and created a new category of service provider that that he believes we're likely to see more and more discussion about this, and so we ought to have a spot in the code that matches it.
Yeah, I would say it's super time sensitive. So I gave it a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 3, and a 1, and I gave the same numbers to both of those.
Got it. So that's those add up to 9 in each instance. Yeah, so my was that
8.
There is
1, 2, 1, 3, 1.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I had mine added up to 9 and yours did not. I think yours is totally reasonable, so I'll drop those in.
So does this go to the land use committee, or because they're the ones who deal with?
Yeah, I think the creation of the new part of the zoning code's got to go to land use committee. Right. I think the license would not. I mean, he asked for human services. That sounds right to me. I'm curious what you think, but the zoning one I think has got to go to the land use commission.
Right. So would human services wait to see what the land use committee does first before working on the licensing piece, or?
I think the simple answer to this question is no.
Okay.
I think these feel related for extremely obvious reasons, but I don't think they are formally speaking. And I think, I mean, I think frankly, Jonathan could envision a situation where the zoning one doesn't pass for whatever reason, and the licensing one does. And I think that's an outcome he can live with. I think the licensing is what he sees as really critical.
Okay.
I mean, not to say they're not both important, but I think, you know, I don't think he would suggest that the license is dependent upon there being a, sorry, I mean, really inarticulate. Let me just state the obvious. We license all kinds of things that don't have their own zoning category.
Right. Sure. Right. Okay. Okay.
So that's the point here.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the zoning issue is a multi-step process because the land use commission deals with it, and then it goes to P&D, and then it goes to council.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, then I move that we forward the zoning item to the land use commission and ask them to put it on their agenda as soon as possible.
So I second. Councilmember Revelle moves that line 18 be forwarded to the Land Use Commission with the recommendation that they put it on their agenda as soon as possible. Mayor Bis seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
I vote aye, with 2 voting in favor and none voting against. The motion carries and the item is duly referred. Do you want the as soon as possible time frame for the other one as well?
Assuming it's not June. But yeah, why don't we say as soon as possible, so it's clear that it happens in the third quarter, but early in the third quarter.
So is that a motion?
Yes, it was a motion.
So Councilmember Ravel moves that line 19 be forwarded to the Human Services Committee with recommendation that it also be heard as soon as possible. Mayor Biss seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
I vote aye, and with 2 voting in favor, none voting against, the item is duly referred. And this brings us to the final item, which is also a referral from Councilmember Nusma. And this is to put a council member on the Environment Board.
Yep.
I think he just wants to add a member. I don't think he wants to swap that member out for an existing appointee.
Right, he just wants to have the Environment Board be similar to several other of our boards and commissions that
Right.
have a council member as a member. Yeah.
Yeah.
And given, so that would have to go to the Rules Committee, and given that we're about to have one of our rare Rules Committee meetings, I did give it a 1 for time sensitivity, just to get it moving along. And a 1 for scope, and a 2 for existing policy, a 1 for community interest, and a 2 for goals and priorities.
Yeah, I think that's, I was actually even a little more generous, but I think.
Yeah, I didn't want to look like I was overly favoring it. So.
Favoring environmental issues, right?
Right.
You're clearly, in the tank for big environment.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had several conversations with Councilmember Nusma about this, and it seems like a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think it, I mean, and again, our job isn't so much to figure out if it's a good idea, but just to figure out when it, but I don't think we're gonna have a big discussion about this. I think people will just vote for it and move on. So I think I'm comfortable, even though I think the rules agenda may be a little long, I don't think it's gonna add more than 2 minutes to it. So I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I move that we forward this to the Rules Committee and ask that it be on their June agenda.
My second, Councilmember Ravel moves that line 20 be forwarded to the Rules Committee with request that it be on the agenda for the next meeting. Mayor Biss seconds. There discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
I vote aye, and with 2 voting in favor, none voting against, the motion carries and the item is duly referred. I think that's all.
Yeah, good.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Could we hear Allison? Are the committees and the committee chairs or the staff responding to your emails that asking, to place items on their agendas? Are they being responsive?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Every once in a while I'll get a response, but generally no.
And are you following up on, like, as the agendas are being produced?
When I can, yeah, I think, so I don't know if Councilmember Ravel knows this, but I'm gonna be able to move the referrals tracker to iCompass, which won't change much from your user perspective, but it'll change a lot for me. It'll be a lot easier, and I'll be able to track things quite a bit better. And then I'll have a much better idea of when things get put on agendas and things like that.
Right, okay.
But I should just say really quickly that with chairs changing at the end of the month, I will be sending out emails to the new chairs and staff and saying, like, look, this is, I may have missed something. So, maybe your committee already took care of it, but as I know, as I understand it, or as far as I know, these are the things that are sort of carrying on from,
from before.
Yeah, from before. And I'll also, in the round of emails that I do today as a follow-up, I will CC the new chair.
Great, good.
Right, because we're at a change moment.
That's right.
So
yeah,
the current chairs are kind of irrelevant, honestly.
Yeah.
All righty.
All right. Well, with that, seeing nothing further to come before us, the May 26th meeting of the Referrals Committee stands adjourned.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.